Welcome to the Lila Life Show. I'm your host, Linda Andrews, and I have a special accompaniment today, Rachel Rossello, who you may remember from a few episodes back. And we have a very special show today. We're going to be sharing an alignment session with you all as it is the summer solstice. This is airing a few days afterwards, but Rachel, thanks so much for being here with us and for all that you do with and for Lila Life.
Yeah, sure. I'm excited for this.
Awesome. So Rachel's here. I told her to pretend like she is receiving this podcast as though she's listening in live. I hope that you all, with the intention that if she has any great questions, she can ask on behalf of you all as a listener. So that's my thought process here. But we have the alignment session, which is a quarterly session through the integrative advisory practice that I share with people. And this is an opportunity to check in around the next 90 days. You take a look at your life and you see, how are things going? How has the past 90 days been? What's working? What's not? Where do I want to go from here? And then what projects, what actions you need to drive forward to align your life the way that you want it to be. And so as a listener right now, you have an opportunity if you need to push pause, maybe you have a notebook, a journal, take a moment of reflection for the past 90 days and think to yourself, what is going well? What are you stoked on? What feels good? What were some of the wins? And that puts us right to about the middle of March of this year at that spring equinox point. And this time of reflection to see what do you feel some momentum about? What does feel in alignment in your life? And so go ahead and do that if you want to. And as you're doing that, you might have some awareness come up and around what's not going so well in your life and what's feeling extra sticky. Rachel and I were talking about different ways energy sucks can come up in your life, what's not working. And so as you're in that energy of what's working, taking some time to yourself to see, where are these red flags? What feels like a stop sign, a roadblock? What's taking you off course? And some of this could show up of things that are in your control. Some of it could be things that are out of your control. It's nice to have some awareness around which is which. And as you're taking yourself through these prompts, and I don't expect you to necessarily go at this pace, but sometimes silence can be too awkward. And then now what? Where do you go from here? And so that now what is going to really inform what the next 90 days could look like. And before you just dive right in with the now what based on the next 90 days, this is a chance to really zoom out in the integrative advisory work and practice that I share. We usually start with what we call an activation call. But what's your mission in your life? What's your vision? What are your values? What's your purpose? These are some big questions, again, that take some inquiry within yourself and likely some writing and some journaling. Then you look at the next 90 days with these big picture topics and themes in your life. Say, okay, what can I realistically drive forward in my life? I like the SMART goals framework: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time defined. And as we're talking time defined, we have a natural time definition because we're talking about a quarter, a business quarter, or 90 days. And within those 90 days, there's a few different ways you can break that up. You could do 1 month at a time. You'd have 3 months. What are you doing for July, August, and September, roughly? You could divide that up into a half. So it'd be about 6.5 weeks, almost 7 weeks. So what are you going to focus on for these first 6 weeks, 6.5 weeks, and then the second 6.5 or 7 weeks? And this is a way that I like to run Lila Life. I like to be on this rhythm with what we're putting out as a company and the way we do our work. It's taken some time to get synced up on these rhythms. But once you do, it just creates a natural flow. Whether you stick with the actual quarters of the business cycle, which would be like July 1st to October 1st, or I like using these natural rhythms of the agrarial, am I saying that right, calendar with the summer solstice, right? Because we're 10 days early, right? Today we're 10 days early from July. So if we're doing this inquiry work, in theory, we're 10 days early for the next cycle of a business calendar. And it's nerdy, but that's why part of the reason I like it so much. And so you look at the calendar now. Okay, you have 90 days forward. What am I going to do every day? I like to approach this through two lenses. One is the business fundamentals. And if you're not in business, you could even think of your own personal finances. And usually, if you are in business, you would want to have as a prerequisite to great business your personal finances in order. And then the other is your overall well being. Are you feeling, I just came off a pretty rough cold or whatever. I don't know what was going on, but you know, what with your well-being needs to get back in check? Are there little things that are out of balance that could be back in balance? And so I think when you approach both sides of this, either the money and business side and the personal well-being side, that you can bring a lot of harmony. My pun with harmony, spelled Money. And so much when our money's not in order, there can be a lot of extra disorder in life and limitation around what you're able to do. So I want to pause there. Anything coming up for you, Rachel, as we're talking through some of this that you want clarification on? You don't need to do any personal shares unless you want to, but just more the theoretical here.
Um, I mean, yeah, I think this is really good. Like I think I'm an entrepreneurial person, but
Mhm.
I am not good with planning. I mean, I am good with planning in some ways, but I don't plan in the right way that I should be. I
Mhm.
feel like I plan little things and like micro, I guess you could say, like things, but
Mhm.
I need to look at like macro, like the big picture, and like
Mhm.
plan for the future, my finances, things that I haven't been so diligent with. And now it's making me think, wow, yeah, I need to really make some changes in priority and like really look to the future. And this long-term planning and syncing would really help that. So, yeah, this is a good thing to have, like as a strategy, I guess.
Awesome. So we're still tracking, and if you were to work 6 days a week for the next 90 days, you would have 72 work days, roughly. I think that's
hmm
how the math works out.
Yeah.
So you can see, if you were to take 72 actions over that course of time, one almost every day, you could actually get a lot done.
Yeah.
What if you did 72 actions towards one outcome? That's your new channel, like whatever that is.
Yeah.
What could be possible? And then 90 days goes by and we still haven't started something. And it's like, what? Why aren't I getting the results that I could have had? And it's like, well, you just missed these dates, Let's make sure I'm right on my, yeah, sorry, 78 days. That would be if you worked 6 days for those 13 weeks.
Mm.
So it's roughly, say, 72 to 78 days. You can pick your own work schedule, and that's not even saying working 8 hours. That's saying if you did one thing a day,
Right.
right? And you can
Yes.
imagine that also on the well-being side. I mean, I talk a lot about walking. Walking, especially during the pandemic, helped me so much, and it still does. Today, I was like, I'm so out of sorts. I need to go on my walk right now.
Yeah.
And, when you do that 72 times in 90 days, for instance, you feel different. And then you add in, and as you're sharing that about like being better at the micro projects, but not so great at the macro, all of this, it's like a spiral. It's like it starts pretty shitty. And it's like, oh, I'm really not even doing this process that well, but you've started it and you've started and maybe it's not going that well. Maybe you look at 90 days and you're like, I only did this one thing twice in the 90 days. And it's like, well, hey, you did it twice and you didn't do it 0 times. And maybe you're not at 72 or 78 times, whatever that thing is, but let's go from 2 in 90 days to 10 or 30. And you just can start to see, oh, wow, this really pays off. I think money is a great example. If I went from completely neglecting my finances to sort of paying more attention, you may just notice, oh, it's getting better. It got better just from sort of paying attention. It's like, what happens when I'm really paying attention and really cultivating? I said this the other day to someone. I said, what if you loved money? What would that change for you? I love money, and you'd shift your relationship, your attitude, and notice that ripple effect and what can be possible. I know you love traveling and having different life experiences. It's like it takes money to do that. And that unlocks different possibilities when you're not paying attention. And you can substitute money for anything else, but one of the ways one of the places when I share this process that I like to invite people to start is like, what sucks? What's not going well? What is like a nagging pain or something that you need to pay attention to that you're not? And what happens is some of this stuff, it works itself out, something you're neglecting, you now pay attention to. Let's give an example many people can relate to. Say filing. Like you just have a bunch of papers that you're not organizing or you haven't tended to. Once you've done it, you could have to do that again down the road as more compounds. But once it's done, and then you can move to the next thing. And there's so many things that just don't even get started, let alone completed, to then move to the next thing. And that's, I think, a big source of anxiety is really from what are you neglecting or what isn't going well that does, it's like it's screaming for your attention. And by you putting that attention on it would change everything. And so for you listening, take a look at now the next 90 days, think about what it is that feels like a thorn in your side. I mentioned being sick. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just need to rest. This is so annoying. I just got to rest. Like, all I'm going to do right now, I'm eliminating anything I don't need to have on my calendar right now. I'm going to rest. Okay, we got through the resting part. Energy starting to creep back up. Like, it's not that dire state of the rest anymore. We got through that. And I like that when they say, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. It's like I just finally
Yeah.
surrendered. I'm like, all right, I'll do the rest thing. Let's do
Yeah.
it. Right. But
Mhm.
yeah, so take a look at your calendar, your next 90 days. Think about what you can realistically put into motion. Maybe there's things that you have in your mind as a dream or something you desire, but it's not the right time. Like you got that part of the SMART goals, it's like being realistic. Are you going to actually do that right now? If that's a no, then don't make that your next 90-day plan. And it can be simple. That's something that I also want to emphasize here is let it be simple. Um, something and don't overthink it. What I mean by this is like it could be simple habits. It could be starting new habits over the next 90 days. Like it could be a loftier project or goal. Maybe you're creating something. I've been working on this cookbook for high performers. For me, maybe it's like recipe testing. But if I were to say I have 150 pages, if I were to say recipe testing all the recipes versus it could be a bit more realistic to say I want to get through 13, one a week, and just to at least see what does that feel like. So set yourself up for success. A lot of times we're starting at zero or not doing it or from that place of neglect. And we're like, I'm going to go all in. I'm going to triple down. It's like, no, you're not. It's an unsustainable practice. You're starting at zero.
Yeah.
Chunk it down. I'm going to do this every day. Cool. And so that's where when I shared the 72 or the 78 opportunities for an action with, in theory, a rest day a week, you could have up to 78 attempts at something, but it doesn't need to start at that. I just like to say that as like a tangible number to say, wow, what if you were doing those 78 actions towards that outcome? What could be possible? So another pause. Anything else coming up for you?
Yeah, like this is great. I'll just use my YouTube as an example. Like I've had
Perfect.
a YouTube for a while, but definitely the planning and like the syncing of the seasons and quarters was not there, and I could have made a lot of progress if I really just set like small goals for myself. But instead, I was looking at, oh my gosh, I have to grow my, oh, it was just so daunting because I was thinking of like I guess thinking, oh, I can't do it. Oh, it's not good. Thinking of the negatives. And I just was like procrastinating. I was like, oh, I'll just do it when I have material. But it's like, how do you get the material? You need to like plan it out and do it.
Mhm.
Even if like I saw something that was like, if you want to succeed at something, like especially posting online or something with content creation, you have to be consistent. Like, I mean, ideally daily, you'd put something out, but you're not going to like everything you put out. And I was trying to like make sure I loved everything, but it's like sometimes you have to just ship it, like do it, even if you don't like it, because that's part of being productive and giving, your service or whatever. You need to just do it no matter what. Like, and then people will receive it. And so now I'm like, okay, even if it's not like ideally what I want, I'm gonna have to do it. And just making that schedule and like, yeah, like 72 times. I mean, I probably did once every 72 days or less. Once I posted once in 1 year. I don't know, maybe I went 2 years without. It's like that's not consistent. But thankfully, my subscribers have stayed on there. Thank God. I'm so thankful. But it's like, and now I'm starting my ASMR, which is like that's kind of a more I think it's more of a commitment because that's like soothing for people. They really like to watch that to like relax. And it's like some people really, look forward to that one person they follow putting out a video because maybe that's the one person that can help them sleep or relax. And so now I'm like, okay, this is a big deal, but I like definitely feel ready for it. It's just I'm thinking, oh, what if I don't have the energy or the whatever? But it's like, I feel like we as humans, we have a lot more to give than we think. Yes, it's
Mhm.
important to rest, like
Mhm.
totally. Like I'm also really reluctant to rest, but we also have like energy reserves and like that's what happened with me with working out. Like I was not taking care of myself for so long, especially traveling. Like I started eating all the local food, the fried food, the street food, and I stopped having an exercise regimen, also working online. It's really hard, you're sedentary most of the day. And then recently I was like, no, I'm going to make a commitment. I'm not going to take 3 days off. I'm going to do like like I would say I would go to workout classes like twice, like one day and then the next day and then take a break. One day the next, and I was consistent. And also, yeah, my walks I do like at least 5 or 6 days a week. Like I have to stay consistent. And I actually have way more energy now that I'm being consistent and taking care of myself. And now I have so much more energy to do all those other things. So it's all together. You need to take care of your health sometimes in order to get that energy to accomplish the stuff. And yeah, it's just about like planning and taking myself seriously, I guess. It's all kind of comes together and this like, looking forward about the quarters and yeah, that stuff is gonna really help, I think. So
I love this. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I think
yeah.
that's really relatable. And
Mhm.
yeah, I think a nice thing to ask yourself too as you're looking ahead at the next 90 days through this process is what could get in your way? Like what could be the roadblock? What could be what stops me? And it could be, I'm too tired, I'm not feeling it, a creative block. Like in the example of the YouTube, you're listing out your content, so that's not happening, right? And
Mhm.
you don't feel the creative juices flowing, but you have 72 content ideas for the next quarter. And okay, yeah, I'm not generating new ideas, but I already have this list. Today it's time to film X, Y, or Z. You could apply that in many different ways. And I like the 90 days because it also invites just the concept of rhythm more into our lives. Like, oh, this is already happening. The natural world is already in this rhythm. Like, how can I align to that rhythm? In 90 days, we're going to be sitting here at the beginning of fall. It's going to be,
Mhm.
September 20th. Can we believe it? Right?
Wow.
Like, what was our summer? What happened in the summer? If you're in the northern hemisphere, this is the lightest time of the year. A lot of people are a little bit more active. We have the most light in the year. How did you use that time? What else are you making room for that, say in the middle of winter. I know we're in Florida, so it's a little different, but you know,
Yeah.
the the natural rhythm shifts winter to summer. And so how are your activities aligning or misaligning based on that? So these are all things that I recommend you think about as you're mapping this out. And a great question to consider is, how will I know that I achieved or I did what I set out to do? How will I know? And that could be a specific, like quantifiable metric. It could be a feeling. It could be saying, at September 20th, when I look back, I feel X, Y, or Z, or I posted 78 videos, or I went on 78 walks. One of our partners that has really helped me put this into motion is Best Self Co. I love their journals. One of theirs is a 6-month planner. It's undated and it breaks it down into 2 quarters. And within that, you can create different projects or milestones for each of those quarters. They give you room to do up to 4. And at the beginning of it, to set some 6-month bucket lists and goals. But what I notice is just time does go so fast. My dad always says it's like a roll of toilet paper. It starts out slow and it goes quicker towards the end or the middle. It's like a funny way to think
That's
about
a
it.
good
But
one.
yeah, it does. Time is going to go on no matter what. And so what are you doing with this time? And if it is a season of rest, I think that that's can be more than fine. But I would say, if it's a season of rest and you're not generating something new or creating, to just check in around what is the habits that are going to support you through this time that you're not doing or that you're starting to do, but you want to get more consistent about. So when I share these ideas around integrative advisory, it's from the lens that everything is connected, everything. And it all is connected. And when something, say in your personal life or your work life or your business life, feels out of alignment, it is affecting everything. And those misalignments, it's just like warning signals, like, "Meow, meow," the fire alarm, like, what is going
Yeah.
on? Where do I need to get back into alignment? And life
Mhm.
is full of natural ebbs and flows, but paying attention to these, having awareness, again, can help be that invitation to get back into alignment. So that's everything that I have for us today. I want to pause if there's any follow-up questions, and if there's anything, Rachel, you think, if you're a listener, that you might want more clarity on. This is our frequently asked questions segment.
Um, yeah, like what are some tips you have for like getting through rough patches as an entrepreneur when you want to give up? Like, do you have any methods that you've used or other people have used?
Yeah, so personally, when there's a rough patch as an entrepreneur, I first want to see, like, what is underneath the rough patch. So I bring up personal finances because that can really be one. And
Yeah.
especially when the cash flow can be up and down. I read something crazy today. It was let me see if I can find it. This was more companies announcing bankruptcies. This is The closures are a 24% increase from 2023. So this was specific to retailers, are closing 3,200 stores this year. And that's up 24% from 2023. So getting your personal finances in order, if they're not already, I just start there because that's such a common one. And if that needs to be subsidized by other work, different projects, contract work, formal employment, it doesn't mean that you need to abandon what you're working on, but it's being realistic about, likely there's this underlying stress around money. There is a shortfall. So a part of that too is really knowing your numbers, being able to look and see, where are these gaps, get spending under control. For most not most, all entrepreneurs need to be checking their monies for the business, right? Independent of
Mhm.
their personal finances. But when the personal finances are in chaos, then that colors the lens you're seeing and making those business decisions. So I would start there. On the business side, analyzing where can you cut? What can you eliminate? Are there things you can delegate or automate? Those are huge opportunities to just clear up some of the energy. Are you doing what you love? Like, are you making time for what you love? And hopefully, as an entrepreneur, that's already happening in your business through what you're doing. but that can also include your personal life. Like, do you have the time for the things that you love? And are you creating that creative spark, right? In Lila world, the divine play, like, do you have room for all that? Is there breathing room for all that? And I can go through these little seasons where I just get into such a like intense work grind mode that I'm carrying all this neck and shoulder tension. I'm getting myself into migraines and I really make myself sick. So I know when I get to that point, I'm not capable of my best work. And it's better for me then not to be doing creative work because I'm not doing great creative work, right? And so then that's this huge imbalance. And I would say getting back to the basics, even around personal well being, I could use today as a very tactical example. This was supposed to be recorded a little earlier. I was like in a rough headspace. I'm like, I can't do this right now. I need to go for a walk, hop in the water, and then reset my day from there. And I did that. And I'm telling you right now, this recording is much different than, 3 or 4 hours ago. And so giving yourself the room and the grace to make those adjustments, those audible adjustments when that's coming up, I think those are some of the core things. You need to anticipate, especially with responsibilities. Many people have responsibilities that they have, period. There's nothing that you can get out of those responsibilities. And so we're not trying to defy the laws of the natural world. You have those. So it's anticipating in reality, like, what does that take from you to make time to do those things? We could connect that to the personal finance conversation. Like, I have financial responsibilities. When am I making the time to review those, to make sure I'm staying on track with that, reset my week or my month, right? But if I'm completely neglecting it, not making the time, then that's not being handled. I use that as an example that I think a lot of people are facing. You face rising inflation, everything costs a little bit more, everything feels a little bit more stressful. But this was something, speaking of anticipation, personally, I saw that this coming years ago. And we started leaning up years ago. It's like, where can we lean up as much as possible? When you're leaning up, you can only cut so much. And so then the other upside of this is like, you got to be making money. There's an unlimited upside, and there's only so much you can cut on the downside. And this can apply to both business and personal finances. And so what I'm saying is like, where can I make more money? And making sure that connection is there where money comes in business by providing value to people. And providing value to people, usually they have some problem, you have some solution, and that's the value exchange. That's how the dollars are exchanged. And so making sure that that all makes sense and you're mapping, this is the problem people have, this is how they're paying me. Now I have an unlimited upside. And there's so much nuance and specificity depending on the business and the monetization strategy, but you just want to have that all in check. And if something around that's off, or say business is down, right? We just talked about 25% of business closures are 25% increase in business closures year over year, right? So you don't want to be that, but are you anticipating some of these macro trends that are going on? You don't need to be a chief macro strategist for a financial firm, but you can start to have, it's like, okay, if the economy is tough and people are spending less, their discretionary money, the money they have is less, what does that mean for my business? Do I need to adjust my price points? Do I need to, get sponsors and monetize in a different way? And again, there's a lot of nuance to what that can look like. I think I answered your question and then some.
Yeah, that was great.
Any other questions you think we need to touch on before we wrap today?
Don't have any now, but I'll think of some for next time, I guess.
Okay, awesome. So everyone, this is your alignment session. Go through, especially the beginning part of this, go slow, but essentially you're mapping out, what do I have going on in the next 90 days? What do I need to shift around my business/finances or my personal well-being? take some time. If you have 1 to 3 initiatives that you want to focus on, this could be big projects or simple habits, but it's what you're making some commitments to in your day over day, week over week, to drive your life forward and create the life that you desire with that little sparkle of divine play. So, special thank you to Rachel for being here. Thank you all for tuning in. And we'll do this again next month, but it'll be even more tactical, where we do an integration session, and it'll probably feel very similar. But it's like, okay, we know what we're doing for the quarter now. Let's check in from last quarter to the next quarter, last month to the next month, and see, this month, we're 1 month removed from the beginning of a quarter. How am I progressing to what I said I wanted to do 30 days ago? And that's that cycle. So thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Lila Life Show, and we will see you next week.